Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am going to be sharing some Dollar Tree Plus DIYs with you, starting off with this cute thing that I picked up at the Dollar Tree Plus. It was $3, and we're going to start by doing something without that. We're going to make a little base using some tumbling tower blocks, and I am just going to use some wood glue, gluing them together. Just doing, I believe I do 6 sets of 2, and I'm just using my ruler to straighten them out, and then I will let them dry. Now, if you want to do it faster, feel free to use some hot glue. And I just love working on my little clear cutting mats from the Dollar Tree because it protects my surface, but it also lets me slide projects out of the way while they're drying. And so I was going kind of off of the picture on the front. Now I believe, well, I'm going to show you the colors, Kelly Green and Harvest Orange from Apple Barrel, but you can use anything you want. Now I think this piece is supposed to be a tic-tac-toe board. Correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't say that on there, but I think that's what it's supposed to be. And originally I was going to take all of the parts and use them for different DIYs, but I kind of like the picture on the front, and I thought it could be a really cute sign. So I'm going to paint the pumpkins orange and let them dry. Then we're going to paint the leaves. I ended up just using the red. Thought I was going to do red and yellow leaves, but I just did the red, and it really only took one coat. The MDF soaks up the paint and kind of makes it dry a little bit more muted, but I liked that, so I only did the one coat. And then we're going to use the green paint to paint these stems on our pumpkins. And once again, do whatever colors that you like that fits with your decor. So now we're going to go back to the tumbling tower blocks, and once I had them the glue is dry, I'm going to glue them all together. And I'm going to just share this with you because you can see a little bit of the struggle and how I improvised. As I was doing it, I was like, these are, like, this one has a huge gap there. Like, this is definitely not the same length. So I just continued on with the wood glue, and I glued them all together and let them dry. And then I went in with some lightweight spackling from the Dollar Tree and filled in that gap. And then any other spots that seemed to need a little bit of smoothing over, I did. But then, and then I let that dry, and then I sanded it. And then as I'm doing this, I had more pieces break off, and I was like, oh my gosh, am I not using enough glue? Because usually this glue works great. Or am I just not letting it set? Which could be, because I tend to lose my patience when I'm crafting. I want to just keep moving along. So I pulled out my super glue gel, and I'm just gluing the one that came apart back together with that. And then I was like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this anymore, so I flipped it over to what was going to be the bottom, and I just put a bunch of super glue gel between all of the seams and hoped for the best. So we're letting that dry. We're going to go back to this sign part, and I'm just using some antique wax from Waverly and a damp paintbrush. Had a hard time getting those words out. You could also just water down the antique wax or use it as is, but I was trying to go for a little bit lighter of a look, although it came out darker than I thought, but I ended up liking it in the end. And I'm just brushing it on, wiping it off, and we're just going to do this stain to the whole side, inside, all the corners, front and back. If you enjoy budget-friendly DIYs, I hope that you consider subscribing to my channel. I do a lot of Dollar Tree DIYs or clearance finds, thrift finds, but a lot of Dollar Tree. But either way, it's always budget-friendly and user-friendly. So please consider subscribing before you leave. So once everything was dry, all of my pieces, I'm going to use some super glue gel and glue each one of these in. Now, I don't know why I didn't use hot glue. I think I thought with the antique wax, the hot glue might not work as fine, but I feel like hot glue would have been a fine option for this. But whatever you want to do, whatever adhesive, tacky glue, wood glue, do what you want. Glue them all down, and I did it obviously very patterned, but you can do a more sporadic if you want. Now this did leave out one pumpkin that came with the set, and we're going to use that in a later DIY. So once all that glue had set, we are going to attach this to our base. That's why I made the base, because I wasn't thinking it would stand up as great on its own, especially if something got bumped into. So I'm just going to use some Gorilla wood glue and a little bit of hot glue, and we're just going to glue this down to the center, and this just gives a slightly wider base, but I didn't want too wide of a base because I did want this to have a narrow profile. I'll probably style it with stuff in front of it as well, so it'll kind of be like a backdrop on a shelf is kind of what I'm thinking. We'll see. I'll be decorating fairly soon. And then I'm just going to stain the bottom with some antique wax once again. Now the reason I glued it on first was because I know that I didn't want the glue to have a hard time if I stained the whole thing. So I was like, I'll just stain it after and it worked out fine because the main piece had the same finish on it, so it didn't matter if I got anything on there. But here's how it came out. Once again, you could do more neutral colors if you wanted, but I do like pops of traditional fall colors in my decor, so I love how this came out, and we're gonna move on to the next one. This piece I picked up at the Dollar Tree was $3 in their Dollar Tree Plus section, and it was so pretty on its own. I didn't want to use it or do anything with it, but I'm going to. I'm going to pull out these autumn words from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to paint this one in black. And just to let you know, if you can find those in the Dollar Tree Plus section, originally I thought they just had the pumpkin and the acorn, but the next time I went in, they had another one. I think it was leaves. And they also had some in like a whitewash, I think, or maybe it was a darker finish. I think it was a whitewash. But I thought they were so pretty on their own. If I didn't do DIYs, I probably would just like put that on a shelf by itself as is. But I am doing this in a way that I can change it up or take these items off if I want to in the future, because it was just so pretty. I didn't want to like make any super permanent changes. So I'm taking this like rusty orange ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I think it's called like their stitch ribbon, and I'm just putting a little bit of hot glue, and I'm wrapping that around the center stem, and we'll go across the top as well. I know it's kind of hard to see what I'm doing, but I'm just finagling it around and gluing as I go. Hot glue typically will peel off items fairly easily without ruining them too much, so that's what I'm hoping for. Plus I only put the hot glue in the back. And then I have this cute little bow. This came in a pack from Hobby Lobby, and it has a cute button center, and I'm gluing that onto the ribbon. And then I have one of these laser cut leaf cutouts from the Dollar Tree, and I hot glued that underneath once again onto the ribbon. So we're having as little glue on the piece itself as possible, just so that I can do what I want later. But I couldn't bring myself to paint this piece because I loved the color wood. And now we're going to take that same orange ribbon, and I'm going to tie up bows on both of the outside pumpkins just to give a little pop of color there. And then we're just going to glue our Give Thanks to the center of the big pumpkin. I love the dark black contrast with this light wood. I thought it was super pretty. Let me know if you agree. There it is, all finished. This is definitely my favorite. Yeah, this is for sure my favorite. But you know, you do you. You could totally paint the whole thing if you wanted, but I just loved that natural wood. All right, so for our last one, I'm taking this little sign. I picked this up recently at Hobby Lobby. If you want to check out my haul, I will have that linked for you. This was $6.99, and I got it for 69 cents, and I bought a ton of stuff at their 90% off, both at Hobby Lobby and Dollar General. And I bought a bunch of things that I will be DIYing with, so I thought this would be a great blank sign for, well, I'm going to use it as a blank sign for my next DIY. So I'm trying to tape off the border here. I did a decent job. It was all right. And then I'm going to go in with Plaster by Waverly, and I'm going to start it with a smaller brush along the edges and then a bigger one. But we're going to give this multiple coats. It probably took like 4 or 5 coats, to be perfectly honest. I think I should have sanded it down a little bit because the letters did want to just pop through. I don't know if they were like slightly textured or something. But nonetheless, I painted it till I was satisfied. If you are enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out so much. It's just a very simple way to let YouTube know that you're digging what I'm doing. All right, and now we're going to take that last pumpkin from that first DIY, and I'm just going to paint it. This time I'm using pumpkin from Waverly. Definitely a little bit of a thicker paint, so it comes out a little bit different than the first project. And then I'm going to go in with Kelly Green for the stem, and I'm just going to do a very simple coat. This all just took one coat. I didn't overdo it here. Really didn't need to. And then I wanted to go in to make some little pumpkin lines with the plaster, and there was way too much paint on my brush, and the brush was acting funky, and I didn't like it. So I went in with some more pumpkin and just muted that down by adding some more pumpkin color on top, and then I went in again with a more true dry brush. And then I also did a little bit of the edges just to make them pop a little bit, and then I went in again with a tiny bit of pumpkin to just blend it all together. And we're going to peel off our painter's tape and clean up the edges a little bit. And then I did want to go in with that plaster on the black. I just didn't want a thick, coverage there. So a little bit of dry brushing there just to soften it up a little bit. I didn't want that like stark black in this project. And then I also wanted to add a little bit of orange to the background. So I'm doing a little bit of dry brushing, trying to be careful because if you do too much of that, if the letters weren't fully covered, which I don't know, it just wanted to like pop through. So I just did a little bit of the orange or the pumpkin color, hot glued our pumpkin on, and then I also pulled this little piece that I picked up in a pack from Hobby Lobby and hot glued this little cute truck onto the center of the pumpkin. And I thought this was a really cute thing that would just be a wonderful shelf sitter filler item for fall. So I hope that you enjoyed these DIYs. If you do, once again, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, make sure your notification bell is turned on, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.